Sometimes the most dangerous adversaries are those who have lost touch with reality, driven insane by societal collapse. One such figure is the formerly unremarkable grocery shop manager Steven Chapman. Imagine a man whose entire identity was built around routine, order, and control. For Steven, his store wasn't just a job, it was his life's work, his sanctuary, the one place where everything made sense. But when the world around him fell apart, so did the fragile mental balance he had maintained for so long. His narrative serves as a chilling reminder of how easily unbearable stress may cause the mind of a person to fall apart. But how does someone go from being an ordinary manager, perhaps someone you see restocking shelves or help customers finding their way to an item in the store, to becoming a murderous psychopath? What could possibly push a man to the brink, to the point where he sees everyone who steps into his store as a threat to be eliminated? In this video, I will go into great detail regarding Steven Chapman's persona, covering his origins, motivations, and the relevance of his character. From his past and motivations to his eventual fate, we look at what makes Steven such a captivating character in the game. Please like and subscribe if you would like to see more videos like this. You may also look at my gaming videos if you would like to. I hope all of you are doing very well. Thank you so much for all your support, everybody. I really truly appreciate it, as I'm thankful as it will help me so much on my channel. But now, without further ado, let's get into it. Characters like Steven Chapman stand out not only for what they do, but also for the deeper psychological collapse that makes him into one of the most unsettling psychopaths in Dead Rising. Steven was a man characterized by routine and responsibility prior to an outbreak. His life revolved around keeping science food and stuff, a sizable grocery shop in the Willamette Parkview Mall, orderly, keeping track of schedules, maintaining inventory, and getting a kick out of making sure everything was in its proper place. This was probably the type of man who took solace in the routine and the predictability of his employment, which every task had a defined process and each day had a set routine. But when the zombie outbreak occurred, that orderly world fell apart. The mall, which was formerly a hive of activity for both business and residents, turned into a terrifying conflict for the living dead and its desperate survivors. For Steven, the sudden and total collapse of civilization posed a vital threat in addition to a physical one. After the world violently destroyed everything he had ever known or understood, he was left to fend for himself in a strange and terrible new reality.
You came to vandalize my store, huh? Not on my watch!
Someone's been hurt. I need medicine.
Hurt! That's just what this said when she came to vandalize my store! I don't take kindly to vandalism. I won't allow it! Listen to me. And listen good, partner. I don't allow vandalism in my store!
When Frank West walks into Sion's food and stuff to get medicine for the injured Brad Garrison, he comes across Steven. Steven confronts Frank as he approaches the drugstore with a pitchfork with an unconscious Isabella Keys inside and a shopping cart reinforced with several blades. He accused Frank of vandalism and ignored Frank's explanation that he needed medicine, saying that Isabella had claimed the same thing when she came by.
When she came to vandalize my store!
After declaring that he did not allow vandalism in his store, he attacked Frank.
Get your hands up right now!
Steven charges at Frank for terrible single-mindedness while riding a modified shopping cart studded with steady spikes and armed with a shotgun. The previously familiar and orderly pathways have turned into a terrifying maze where anything might happen at any turn. Players have to stay alert at all times as they go through the store, avoiding shotgun blasts and Steven's unpredictable attacks. The cramped area heightens the suspense and makes it challenging to predict his next move. The shopping cart, which represented Steven's total decline into madness, has changed from being a representation of ordinary everyday life to a terrifying weapon. The struggle here is not merely one of survival, but rather one of mental detachment from reality. The struggle with Steven is not just a physical, but also a psychological one. Players are forced to be quick thinkers who take advantage of the situation by his unrelenting assault and the restricted space of the grocery shop. The owls function as a barrier and a trap, preventing mobility and visibility while providing brief periods of cover. Timing attacks is crucial for players as they have to wait for the rare occasions when Steven, in his additional rage, exposes himself. Steven's appearance serves as an unsettling reminder of the toll that the end of the world has placed on regular people. The entire narrative, though, is revealed by his expression, which is distorted by tension and stress, and has a wild, angry, and terrifying look in his eyes. His haunting, desperate glance conveys the sense of someone who has lost everything, yet won't accept it. It is evident that Steven is trying to defend more than just his store as he shouts out about keeping thieves out of his business. Rather, he is attempting to preserve what remains of his identity and sense of direction. The grocery shop, which was previously a representation of consistency and routine, has evolved into an escape against the end of the world, a place where Steven can hold on to the hope that parts of his former existence still exist. However, his obsessive clinging to the past has driven him to the verge of insanity. Before the outbreak, Steven Chapman was likely a man who took pride in his work, finding comfort in the routines and responsibilities of his job. He was the kind of person who believed in the rules and order, who saw the world in black and white terms, where there was a right way to do things and a wrong way to do things. But the apocalypse doesn't care about rules, and it doesn't respect order. When the outbreak tore apart the world he knew, Steven's mind couldn't adapt to the chaos that replaced it. Now Steven is consumed by obsession and fear. His store is all he has left, the last place where he feels in control. But that control is an illusion, and deep down, Steven knows it. His paranoia and aggression are his mind's way of protecting him from the truth, of keeping him from facing the reality that the world he knew is gone forever. In his desperation to maintain some semblance of his former life, Steven has become a danger not just to others, but to himself. This loss was more than just a physical hazard to Steven, whose identity was eternally connected to his work. It was a threat to his central being. Steven clung more and more to his business as the last refuge of order in a crazy world while everything around him collapsed. However, this mind continued to disintegrate the more he held on to it. Once a haven of solace and routine, the business became a prison he created for himself, a place where his obsessions and anxieties could faster and intensify. Steven's refusal to let go of the past caused him to slide slowly and eventually into madness rather than in an instant. The outbreak didn't just to destroy the world, it destroyed Steven's sense of self. And in his desperate attempt to hold on to that self, he became the very thing he feared, a threat to others, a danger to himself. His store, once a symbol of stability, became a fortress of madness, where he could pretend that everything was still under control, even as his mind fractured beyond repair. The severe stress of the apocalyptic event has made Steven behave in a way that is a characteristic of psychopathy. His total separation from reality is his intense paranoia and his obsessive demand for control all indicate that his mind has been stressed to its breaking point. His reaction is usually the same: violence, hostility, and a desperate struggle to regain control, because he perceives stress everywhere, even people who are not hostile towards him. However, fear is the true source of Steven's psychopathy rather than evil. He is afraid, not cruel, fearful of what he's become, afraid of what he's lost, and afraid of the outside world, which is incomprehensible to him. His need to protect himself drives his activities, even if doing so means jeopardizing his sanity and even other people's lives. Steven Chapman's story comes to a tragic end when he confronts Frank. In that final battle, Steven fights not just for his store, but for his very identity, for the last remnants of his life he once knew. But in the end, his madness is no match for Frank's determination. The fight is brutal, chaotic, and filled with the desperation of a man who has nothing left to lose. But Frank's resourcefulness and sheer will to survive ultimately led to Steven's downfall. He cradled a cash register and wondered out loud who would take care of the store when he was gone. He died after wishing Frank a nice day, after declaring,
Clean up! Register 6!
After, Frank is awarded with the pharmacy key and the weapon cart, which will respond anytime Frank enters Sion's food and stuff. Also, the store will be filled with zombies whenever Frank returns in that area. Steven Chapman's narrative in Dead Rising is a significant depiction of how the apocalypse may drive even the most regular people insane. His terrible spiral to psychopathy caused by his desperate attempt to hold on and to control in an uncontrollable world serves as an alarming indicator of how fragile the mind of an individual is. As we learn more about his past, we discovered that he was not simply a criminal but also a man who was broken by the society in which he lived in. Man who ultimately paid the price for his inability to let go of his past. By understanding Steven's background, motivations, and psychological breakdown, we gain a deeper appreciation for the complexities of the Dead Rising universe. His story is a powerful example of how the apocalypse doesn't just create monsters out of the undead, but it creates monsters out of us.